Okay, this is Friday. We're done with week 12. Can you believe it? And this is day 34 for Intro to Computers. We talked about security, overview, issues, and then we said what's next? Databases. You have to use access. So you got to be aware, you got to be able to find and use access. And the first assignment has a lot of videos, but it takes you through step by step, so you want to get started ASAP. We talked about digital information, we talked about sensors on your phones, and then we also talked about public and private keys, key pair. And a little information about this: if you encrypt something with your public key, you can only decrypt it with a private key, your private key. Also, you can get a digital signature, which would give you a public and private key from places like VeriSigns. I'm not sure I have that spelled right. But anyway, so what we looked at this example. If Brooke was going to send a message to Dirk, okay, here's what we could do. I could send her my public key. She could encrypt it with that public key, okay, send the message to me, and then I can decrypt it with the private key. So the message is confidential, because nobody can read it and nobody can decrypt it except for me with the private key. So that's the first step. The next step, let's use a different color. Next step then, we can take the message and hash it, send the hash over with the message, so they decrypt the message, and then they can hash it, okay? So they hash here, we hashed over here, then we can compare the two hashes. We have them both over here, we can compare them, and if they're equal, the data didn't change. Of course, the computer can do all that, and so far everything the computer can do. And technologically, we got it set up to do this. Now, the last one. How do we know the message came from Brooke? Brooke. Brooke can take the hash, actually, of her private key and encrypt the hash and send it over to me. She then can send me her public key, then I can decrypt it, and it had to be from her because nobody else in the world has her private key. So she's the only one that could encrypt it. So she could hash the message and create a unique signature by then encrypting it over to here, send me her public key, and I can decrypt it, and then I've already calculated a hash, compare those two hashes, and if they're equal, it had to be from Brooke. Had to be. There is a way to set up a public and private key for one-time use, and it uses an idea from two different people. One's name was Diffie and the other one's name was Hellman. So they talk about Diffie Hellman, a way to create a public and private key setup on the go. So it can actually do that. Which to the idea that when you use something and it's HTTPS, that happens. This public and private key work is done on both ends so that the message is encrypted and also checked for integrity. Alright, last thing we did today then was we went on our websites and I showed how you could take and on the server, on the web server, you have a hard drive, and then you can take and, well, let's do this. Got a hard drive on your computer at home, and then through the internet, right? Through the internet, you can take a file here, send it through the internet to our web server, okay? And then somebody with a browser on their computer, they can go in and see that file and see it in their browser. So it's kind of a way you could share files this way. And if you download some software to encrypt it and then put it over there, and if your partner or the person that's going to look at it, if they know the key, they could decrypt it. If they don't, then nobody else can look at the file because it's encrypted. That's it. Just think. Next week's a short week with Thanksgiving, and then 3 weeks after that and we're all done. So I'm going to mention, you want to start looking at the assignment, our last assignment to do, that has to do with databases. That is it.